Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to my session today. I appreciate the invite by DynamicsCon. Certainly, I also appreciate all the voting that I receive on this particular topic and be able to present this to you guys today. So I'm really truly excited of being here, and I just want to get through this session, making sure that you walk away with the best of experiences and then go from there. Okay. So let's see what we will cover today. The first thing on our agenda is understanding what we're doing in this particular session. So my name is Mariano Gomez-Bent. I am actually working for a company called McCorma, based out of Colorado. And we are pretty much in the AP automation space. And what I'm here to teach you today is how to build your first Powerapps mixed reality app. Certainly, it's going to be exciting. This is a full hands-on session where you will learn the basics and then you can scale it from there. My goal is for you to get the best out of this session. And I'm not a slides guy, so please don't hold me to slides. What I want to do is make sure that you get the best out of the best for this particular case. For today, we're going to cover some introductions. I'm going to talk about Mixed Reality 101. So how you get started, understanding the basics, understand what mixed reality is, how do you get started with the assets that you need to build for your mixed reality experience. And then we will see how we actually build a mixed reality application, some of the considerations you need to take into account. Make sure you have all the background, all the references, walk away with some material that you can actually get started with. And hopefully this session will do that at the end of the day. Feel free to post your questions in the chat window. We will be looking for those, and hopefully you get what you came for. Okay, so as far as introductions go, I'm gonna switch away from the slide deck for now. My name again is Mariano Gomez. I am actually a Microsoft MVP for 13 years going. I'm in the business application space, so anything Dynamics and certainly Power Platform, that's where my expertise is. You can contact me at the end. I'm going to actually have a slide with my contact information where we can exchange more information about the entire Power Platform Dynamics experience and certainly mixed reality. So let's get started. The first thing I always get asked is, how do I actually get started with mixed reality? What are the basics? What are the concepts that I need to keep in mind? How do you even actually get a model or a 3D object model that you can use for working with mixed reality and Powerapps? And in reality here, I've actually brought up my File Explorer. And if you think of a 3D object model, all it is in reality is a collection of pictures that are assembled in a certain way to create that 3D experience. So if you look here, I'm a big Star Trek fan. So I actually have a list of Star Trek ships. In this case, I have the Akira, the Apollo, the Endeavor, the Enterprise, Excelsior, etc. And if you look at Akira here, all it is in reality, if I go to the view menu, and I go to extra large icons, or even, let's go to large icons, you can see that all there is in order to make up this 3D model, I have a collection of JPEG images that, in essence, make up that model and all the different components that you can see in that model. Now, I'm going to right-click here on this GLTF file and think of a GLTF file as the actual file that assembles all those JPEG images in a way to produce a shape. So if I open this particular GLTF file, this will actually open the Windows 3D viewer. And the 3D viewer in particular is a Windows application component that allows me to display a 3D object. It's built natively into Microsoft Windows. And if you see here, it's taking a little bit of a time, but keep in mind that all it's doing is trying to pull all together all those components, and hopefully at some point we'll get a visual on that object. If that's not the case, don't worry. We'll move forward. We'll show you how this is done. But here we got the actual file. You can see if we turn around and if we sort of drag around this particular image, we can see some details. We can also zoom into this by simply pinching in and out. And I can go to the point where I can see that this particular Akira model is part of the United Federation of Planets. Lo and behold, right? So it's a Star Trek. Ship. So you will have access to seeing those details depending on how this model was assembled. So you can see some fine lines. You can switch it around. You can even at some point maybe see the ship badge if it's part of this model. Those kind of things. So that's good. That gives you an idea. But one of the things that I like about this viewer, it is also a mixed reality viewer. So if you see what this is going to do, I can see the ship above my head. What? Really cool. And it does give you that idea of how this particular model was assembled. And I'm actually going to do some quick animations here. So I'm just gonna swing this. Let's swing it. So this is actually pretty cool because now I can see that this ship is interacting within my physical space, even playing like it's scratching my head or something like that. And it gives you that impression that this ship is actually interacting with this space where I'm in. That in essence is what we call mixed reality or augmented reality for an alternate name to it. So that's good. So now the thing is, how do we deal with all these assets? Because in reality, Powerapps, if you've actually worked with Powerapps before, and certainly working with model or mobile devices and mobile applications, it would be preposterous to try to load all these assets into one experience. So what the folks at Microsoft figured out is if we can assemble all these files together, perhaps we can produce a single file that contains all the metadata and all the assets that we can load to produce the same experience. So in doing some research, what I figured out is there's some what you call a GLB Packer. And what these packers do is they convert from GLTF to GLB. And all you got to do really is highlight all these objects and move them into this particular page. And what this page does is, if you notice here, it produces an actual GLB file. So the best analogy I can place so you can understand how this works is if you have a web page that has a whole bunch of HTML files, you can then export that web page into an MHT file that is sort of like a package file or a bin file of all those HTML files. That's sort of like the experience or the analogy that best kind of suits this type of GLB conversion. So we had a whole bunch of assets that are made up out of pictures and what's not, and that GLTF file, and we converted it into a GLB, which is what Powerapps understands. Now, you might say, well, I have mixed reality, or I have objects that are actually 3D objects that are in OBJ format or were created with CAD. There's all sort of converters out there that allow you to take those assets and convert them into a GLB. So first thing to note here is GLB is what Powerapps understands, and that's kind of what you will be dealing with. So that makes a segue into my second part of this presentation, where we can, now that we have this GLB, load it into a particular place or where you can store it for consumption by Powerapps. Now, keep in mind that there are a few things you can do here. I'm a big GitHub fan. So one thing that I have is a repository that I created with all my mixed reality assets. So I have my Star Trek.jpg, my Akira ship that I just showed you. And I have a whole bunch of GLB files, or a GLB file for the Endeavor. I have a PNG, etc. So GitHub, think of it as a good mechanism to store your files, depending on the result. Obviously, the definition of those files, you can only have a certain file size in GitHub. But the same is true perhaps for SharePoint list. That's another good place to share your documents or your 3D object models. So you might want to consider SharePoint as an option. You can store it in an Azure blob storage as well. So any repository that allows you to access those files in a really reasonable manner is a good place to put those files as well. So we're going to stick to GitHub. And then now what we want to do is we want to show you how we get into building your first Powerapps application, which is what you are here for. So I'm going to go over here to Powerapps. You probably already have some familiarity with this, the Powerapps Studio. And the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a new app. And this is going to be a Canvas app. Okay. So while this actually loads, I'll explain what we'll do. We're going to create a simple app. In this case, it's going to be a tablet layout app, completely blank from scratch, so you can see all the steps that are involved. So I'm just going to click here on tablet layout. And we're going to start small. We're going to start on understanding all the different controls that are available in mixed reality and how to even enable mixed reality in Powerapps. So let's give this some time to load, and we will go from there. Okay, so now my Powerapps Studio is open. I have a completely blank application from where I'm going to start. And the first thing is mixed reality. How do we actually enable mixed reality in Powerapps? So the first thing that you guys need to keep in mind here is mixed reality is enabled on a per app basis. That is correct. Each time you're going to develop a mixed reality application, you need to enable that in your Powerapps environment or in your Powerapps application. So to do that, you will go to File, and you will go to the Advanced Settings down here. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down until we reach the experimental feature. So that means that mixed reality is in preview still. So you have a chance to play with this to your heart's content until it's time to pay for it. So I'm just going to scroll down here, and you will see now that mixed reality features is actually here at the bottom. So I'm just going to turn that on. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my design surface where I can start with one of the primary basic controls. So I'm going to insert here from the media option. I'm going to scroll down and get the view in 3D preview control. So that's going to load this control onto my design surface. And lo and behold, one of the first things that you can do is you can test this out right out of the box. So you can actually play and rotate this cube and see how it behaves in this space. You can even zoom in, zoom out, again, using the pinch-in functions that are available from your mouse or your mouse pad. And you can reset this back and see how it behaves. So let's take a look at this control in a little bit of detail. So the one thing that you need to keep in mind here is if I highlight this control, it has a source. That source is actually initially pointing to that sample 3D object that is provided by Powerapps out of the box. And that's the first thing that we need to target. That's the first thing that we are going to change and make it behave the way we want. Now, in order to do that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to screen 1, and I'm going to then go to this drop down with all the properties, and I'm going to select the unvisible property. So here in the formula bar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to initially get a formula that is simply going to load a global variable. In this case, it's called my 3D object. And that formula is going to then point or set that global variable to my object in GitHub. So then again, if I go back over here, you will see now that my repository contains this endeavor.glb file. And now if I go back here in Powerapps, you can see that, and I'll take this out for now, you can see that the global variable has been pointed to this particular endeavor.glb mixed reality, or I should say 3D object asset. Now, there's one particular thing when you're working with GitHub. You have to actually use the raw content of that particular 3D object. The only way to address the raw content is by using this raw.githubusercontent.com address. You cannot actually go directly to the github.com address because this is all metadata and is not really the actual content that is needed. Okay, so I found that out the hard way when I was initially playing with this, but there's plenty of information on how to get this on the web. So that's the first thing we want to do. Now, because I have actually set my 3D object variable to this direction or to this thing, what I want to do then is I want to prove out that this is working. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a label, and this label is going to point to that my 3D object variable that we just set up. So, you know, if you do IntelliSense, it should automatically bring it up. Now, it's not loading, of course, because I have not loaded this app, but it should actually get to the point where if you save this, and that's the first thing we need to do, save our app. We're going to call this Mixed Reality DynamicsCon. And that's actually pretty cool. You can set a background. Remember, you have all these capabilities for your app. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to save this. And that is going to save in my cloud space, in my environment for this application. So there we go. We can then go back now and to our app itself. And then now we have all those capabilities that we are looking for. So we have the ability to start playing this and start testing it out. Sometimes what you gotta do is you gotta add this formula to a button just to get it initialized. So I'm just gonna cheat here for a second. And I'm gonna add this button. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paste the same formula that I had back there. So there we go. And I'm going to remove this and play it for a second. And just click on this button. And now you can see that the variable or the label has been loaded with the address. So we know that my 3D object variable is being loaded. So now what I'm going to do here is simply the source is going to be changed from sample 3D object to my 3D object. And lo and behold, you can see now the control starts to load. And effectively, when I play this, I can see that this model is now functional, and it has the same capabilities that we had in that Windows mixed reality viewer that we saw natively with Windows. So I can pinch it, contract it, move it around, do all those kind of things. And frankly, if you're looking at this thinking, but you only wrote really one line of code that pointed to this particular address, well, that's how easy it is, guys. That's how simple it is to actually get started with mixed reality in Powerapps. So the first control that we covered is the 3D viewer, but that's not what you're here for. So I'm going to remove this button. And the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the view in MR. And view in MR is nothing more than a button. And it's an MR, it's basically a mixed reality control that was added to Powerapps as well. That does allow me then to now make this particular object, this particular ship that I loaded here, interact with my physical surroundings. So we'll see how we do that. Note that it also has a source. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to point that to my 3D object. Okay. Now, one thing about Powerapps the mixed reality control or the view in MR control. You can only actually use a device that is compatible with MR. So that's your Android device, that's your iOS device, but it's certainly not the camera that you have mounted on your desk, because those type of devices are still not compatible. I wish Microsoft works in that direction, but right now, based on everything I know, is not doable with your desktop cameras. So in order for me to do this, I gotta get a little bit fancy. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go back to File, and I'm gonna save this. And the next thing I'm going to do now then is publish this application. So we're gonna effectively publish this version. And in order for me to get a little fancy, what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna bring up my, my phone application, and I'm gonna stream this to my phone. So I'm gonna try again here just to connect to my phone. And as soon as my desktop is on place, I will actually show you how this is done. There we go. So I'm gonna load Powerapps. So you already have this as part of part of your set of applications. And if we scroll down somewhere down here, I should see, or refresh this. Let me refresh this. I should see the mixed reality DynamicsCon application that I just shared with myself. So I'm gonna click here. And note now that this is actually gonna ask me if I need access to, or to grant access to my camera. So obviously that is something you must do. So I'm just gonna allow this. And as you can see now, I have the object viewer that we had initially, but I also have my view in MR control. And let's see, first and foremost, we're gonna play with this object here. So you can see I can do the same things here that I used to do on my Windows desktop application, but I can also view this in MR. And look how cool this is. So this is going to load my camera. And the first thing that you will see in any setting is you will see all the dots that indicate the surface where I'm trying to project this. I can do this on my desk as well. So I can locate different surface areas where I would like to initially project this application. So I'm just gonna tap here to place the object in this space. Remember that you can, once you're comfortable with it, you have the ability to take pictures. You have the ability to reset the viewfinder, and you can go back to the app itself. So if I go back, right, that will throw me back into where my app is. But if I do view in MR again, it will show me the actual application itself. So back again, my viewfinder. And this is actually pretty cute. If you click on the camera control and the snapshot, it allows me to snap those pictures. But right now, we obviously have nowhere where we're capturing those pictures. So that's gonna be my next application introduction to very cool stuff. So I'm gonna just minimize this here for a second. And I'm gonna go back to this application. So the next thing we wanna do is I wanna show you how to capture the different pictures that you might capture in your mixed reality environment. So the first thing I'm gonna do is now that I have this, invisible formula, I'm gonna add to it. So I'm gonna actually set up a collection, and we're gonna call this My Pictures. Very creative, as you can tell. Okay. So My Pictures is going to basically initialize this this collection for me. And there's something that it doesn't like, but it says I have some invalid arguments. And that is something that I wasn't expecting. So let's see, let's continue down the road and we'll see what happens to this. Now, if I go to my view in MR control, then there is another property in here that I like to show you, which is the Unchanged Property. And the Unchanged Property, in essence, allow you to interact or receive information back from that MR experience. In this case, there's a host of information you can receive, and that one of them is the photos. So if I go here and I do collect, and I select my collection, which is my pictures, and I comma that out, I can actually use the self operator, which is fairly new. And as you can see here, one of the things that I can capture is the display mode. The other thing I can capture is the height. And lo and behold, I can also capture the photos. So I'm going to capture those photos here and simply put in a semicolon as a termination. Now, I come from a professional development background. So C#, you end most everything with a semicolon. So I'm good with that for now. And as you can see, the squiggly thing that I had before that went away, that's just because I wasn't using this particular collection anywhere. So now Powerapps understands that this is part of a larger component. So we're good to go. All right. Next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a gallery. And that's going to be for now a blank vertical gallery. Why? Because, you know, it's kind of cool. So we'll add a blank vertical gallery, move it over here. And the next thing that I'm going to do here then is I'm going to point this to a data source. So as you can tell here, part of my data source is my pictures. That's my pictures collection that I just added. Great. This is awesome, because the next thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to add inside of this gallery, I'm going to add a picture control. So that's an image. And that image control is going to be pointed to automatically. See, this is how Powerapps is getting better by the day, guys. If you notice here, this automatically points to this image, this item, that image URI, which is an extension or a property of the photos collection. So I didn't have to do anything. It knows that this is an image control, and it knows that the only property that is associated to this image control is that image URI property. So that's good. But I also want you to know where that image URI, what does it really equate to. So I'm going to click on label here. And now I have a label that I'm going to basically make the same as the image URI. So we can do that as well. And now I have this particular control. This is converted into text. Again, we need to test this. And if we're going to test this, it has to be in our mixed reality environment. But you kind of get the point. The next thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to highlight the gallery as a whole. And just to give it some, you know, beautification, I'm going to put a dotted line around it so you can see what we're talking about. There we go. Nothing too complicated. I think you got the understanding of that. So we will move forward with the explanation. So now what I'm going to do here is, in order to make this work, I got to go back to File, save this, and we are going to publish this particular version of the application. And while that happens, I'm going to go back now to Powerapps on my phone. And I'm going to connect to my app, close this again. And if you see down here somewhere, I will have the, I'll probably move to the top now. This is actually pretty fun when you try to do it live, but it moved to the top, so that's good. We're going to bring it up. The first thing you will notice is that Powerapps says I have a new version of this app. So I'm going to click here to update it. And there we go. Now you can see our gallery. I did that intentionally because otherwise you wouldn't be able to tell that the gallery was there. So if I click now in View in MR, I'm going to turn myself sideways a little bit so I can project this on the surface of my floor. I can tap here. And now I'm going to actually set this image down, and I'm going to take pictures of it. But so to get fancy, I'm going to walk around it. And hopefully I'm not out of my camera view. There we go. But then I'm going to go back now. So as you can tell, those pictures are now in my gallery. And if you, I want you to now think of a business scenario. Let's say you are launching a new product in a showroom, and you actually have your marketing people on the floor. You have this product loaded in 3D, just like we have here. And now you're interested in basically see how this product is going to fit on the showroom. Well, this is precisely what mixed reality allows you to do. Not only that, but now I can capture those pictures, I can upload it to my design team, and they can further infer on the capabilities or the space that we have in order to optimize the showroom, perhaps add other elements to the showroom that are going to enhance the product that you're trying to launch. But this is what I want you to walk away thinking from this experience. Yes, mixed reality is fancy. Yes, it's new, but it does have a place in today's business. There are ways you can leverage or use this to either make gains, to work in a business setting, or to simply have some fun like we have had today. I hope you really enjoyed this presentation. This is actually what I wanted to convey, but I will leave you with some ideas. I challenge you to take this collection of images and submit it to a SharePoint library, for example, or upload it into Dynamics 365. So those are the homeworks that I want you to walk away with. Okay, so I actually had a chance to walk you through different elements of mixed reality. You learned some of the controls. You were able to see how the mixed reality control or the 3D object control viewer works. You're able to see how the view in MR works, and we're able to even capture some elements from that mixed reality environment and bring them into a collection for you to leverage in other areas of your business. So I appreciate you guys coming through, attending this presentation. Here's all my contact information. You can reach me at DGP Blockbuster on Twitter. That's my YouTube channel, youtube.com/mgomezb1. Or you can actually reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's a little too long for me to digest here, but you can certainly go there and contact me, connect with me. I'll be happy to attend to some of your questions. And thank you so much for attending. I want to give you one last reminder. Join me in the conference chat next, where I will be happy to answer as many questions as I can. This is going to be exciting. Looking forward for those of you who really signed up to this session to come and enjoy some coffee and some open discussions about mixed reality. And I'll see you then.